We're in, and I'm gonna move my stop to here. I think if it pushes all the way up, kind of sucks that it one ticked me and then it's pulling back, but either way, anything can happen. Even on the 15-minute chart here, I think this looks great as testing this trend line, testing this resistance, and doing this kind of move. My initial target is going to be here. Wow, that's a nice spike. NASDAQ spiked as well. It's spiking all the way. If it reverses this whole candlestick, that's gross. Reversing a huge spike like that usually means something bad. I'm going to at least bring this down to half and probably trying to go break even pretty quickly. But I do want to give it a little bit, the ability to come up here, spike up somewhere here and then go down. Maybe like there's this downtrend line in play. Here, wow, that's a nice. If it comes down here and retests this low, I'm going to go break even. Just because this market's funky. I want to stay in the move, obviously, because I think there's more downside than just 2x here. I'd love to go for the lows. But, if it's just going to be funky, I'm not going to stay in. NASDAQ here looks the same. It's kind of doing the same thing, pushing lower. It looks good. Again, here's the 5-minute of the NASDAQ. I'm looking for this to close and maybe open the door to down here. The ES is the exact same. This is the easy money right here, and then I'd like it to go and push down here. So we're gonna see. I'm not gonna trail my stop up here yet. I'm just gonna see how this reacts to this zone, because it's more likely that it's like this. It's kind of a more minor support. I'm gonna move this stop now to break even, just because if it does a double bottom here, get me out. That's a big pullback after a spike. As well, if you're not aware of this, NinjaTrader is having a $20,000 demo trading challenge. You can basically sign up for free if you're a new NinjaTrader person or currently using NinjaTrader. It just takes an email, and it's essentially a free demo trading tournament that you can win actual real money from. The prize pool is $20,000. It's over a couple of days. Essentially, you just demo trade for those few days under a special account they create, and then you get real money prizes. So it's pretty cool. I'll leave a link for that down in the description below, or here's a QR code to sign up. Now, managing this, I think I'm trying to just kind of let it play out. It was slow. This is a nice break, but I'm assuming because it's been sluggish here, it's most likely gonna stay doing that. So I want to let it do its thing, because the big picture, like this is a great spike lower. And I think it could totally, big picture again, remember, big picture is, I think, bullish. But I think it's bullish, once we come down to this area. That's more of the support area. And so in the middle here, it's kind of like just seeing how it plays out. If it comes up here and gets me out at break even, so be it. I think my stop's in a good spot here, with back at the main break. If it's gonna come up here and knock me out, I'll be upset, but I think, I don't want to stay in the chop and risk when I think the market just isn't great for a trade. Especially after this pullback happening right here. If it comes up here and breaks this, I'm very, very happy to get out, because it's done a double bottom here. And attempted to go higher, and if it comes back and breaks that attempt, it's going to definitely go higher here. And I want to get out at that point. The idea is that this should be going in my favor pretty easily. And it's, I've given it room for some pullbacks, some reasonable pullbacks. And if it breaks that, like this is what I'm looking for, essentially. I'm okay holding through a pullback like that. It's hard to stomach, a $1,500 swing. But, that's where trading over time, you just get better and better at that with sizing up. You know, I couldn't do this 2-3 years ago. I couldn't stomach seeing this much money move on the screen, but now it's, you know, I don't really focus on it. I'm more just thinking about, you know, okay, how do I want to manage it? Because the size isn't crazy to me anymore. And so that's a great pullback and spike. I could even move this down here. It doesn't really capture much, but that's just, you know, how my plan and strategy works. I like to move down with the swings. And then obviously remembering that we're coming to this as a minor support. But again, I think we've got good potential to keep going lower. I'm definitely going to give it, you know, a few candlesticks to see how we play out. I'm like seeing this much money. This could totally spike up here and knock me out basically at break even, but you know, that's how it goes, right? That's the hard part about why it's, you know, I basically entered in halfway through this swing, which isn't ideal, but that's just how this swing played out. And so that's why the idea is I don't want to scale out here because, you know, I'm nervous that it's going to pull back. If it starts slow and show a double bottom, you know, I'll start to scale this down. But, you know, my play here is the bigger picture, that we're going to actually push the lows. And that's where, you know, the risk reward comes into play. And that's why this trade was worth the risk, is because of that bigger picture downside. If I was just going for this little scalp right here, I wouldn't want to do that. And that's why I'm not scaling out necessarily. It looks like almost we could say we're in a spikier downtrend here, but just, I'm not going to draw that as a line just to keep the chart kind of clean. But definitely gonna, I guess I could maybe do this, but just kind of watching it, see how we move. Just letting this do its thing. So the ES has filled this move, and the NASDAQ actually hasn't made it there yet. So that's one thing of, okay, well, the NASDAQ could actually find support here. And as well, thinking as we're at the 10 o'clock timing, which could also cause a bounce here. So just keeping a lot of that in mind of the potential for a bounce. But again, just let it play out, see how it acts versus trying to get nervous about that. You know, I want the market to tell me that it's going to bounce versus trying to get scared and think, oh, it could bounce here because of these reasons. It's not showing me that it's bouncing yet. You know, this is just a steady move lower. Now it is kind of losing some steam. You know, here it had a spike, and then the spikes are kind of getting smaller. So it could start to flatline a little, but it also could just start to accelerate here as it, you know, breaks through this support. So just kind of got to let it do its thing, right? As always, when you're in a trade and managing, you just got to sit on your hands and try not to overthink things. That's a hard part about managing trades fluidly. That just, again, gets easier over time. Showing me that it's bouncing. And even when we get down to this low, I'm actually going to move this up a little bit just so I can see on the 1 minute kind of where this fair value gap spike closes. But even on this 1 minute, like I'm going to get out here down here essentially at 3x. I might just move it just to so I'm up over 5,000 on the trade. Just for a fun number. But, you know, my limit is I'll probably just move that down as we get closer. You know, I'll move this down. I mean, I'll move this down to here. I wouldn't necessarily get out here. I'm just using, it's more of a mental trailing stop of seeing, okay, how does this spike now play out? Does it get overextended and it's going to reverse quickly? Or do I just need to wait it out and let it do its thing? You know, we're in this tight downtrend, so it's really still just kind of looking normal here. But if we spike all the way down to 3x here, I'll probably move to a previous candlestick trailing stop. I like that as a way to basically capture the move without allowing it to spike back much, but also letting it run as much as it's going to run. Because these moves, the market can go crazy all of a sudden. It can just all of a sudden just go berserk on you. And it's starting to, I think once we, maybe one more candlestick, I'll move to trailing stop. The NASDAQ looks pretty similar. It's actually broken this area. It's hard when it's made most of this move and it's spiking and it's not to my 3x target yet. I really like to try and ratchet when it gets to 3x. I think though I can move down to here, because usually when the market has a big bearish candlestick like this, the high of that candlestick is a good stop, because if it breaks the high of that, it's definitely going to reverse, just because that's a lot of momentum came in there. And if this keeps going down, I'm just going to start trailing this down. And if I get knocked out here because it bottoms, it bottoms. I'm not trying to go for. I like to target down here, but again, we're at the support zone, right? Like I gotta think about that's the main spot I'm at, and that's kind of where I see the potential for the market to reverse. Because this is where kind of the glory of a fluid stop loss can come into play, is when it just starts to go crazy like this. And I'm just gonna, keep moving it down like this. It doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it can be very exciting. I'm just trying to, my heart rate is getting excited now because this is exciting. We're pretty much at the area of I've never had a trade over 5K win at this size, so this is exciting, but also trying to just say, okay, I'm just trying to stick with my strategy here of previous trailing stop candlestick. This is getting big now, but I've learned over time is just keep the stop there, and I'll try and let it have a 50% pullback. But again, this is spiking to the downside, so again, it does have that big chance to whip back. So I want to see this candlestick whip back a little bit. That's okay if it punches a new low, and then I'll move my stop down again. I'd like it to make a new low. Okay, I make a new low. I'm going to put my stop down again. Again, I'm pretty much just moving my limit order down. I'm not going to really let it get filled. Sometimes I just won't even have the limit order, but it's just on my chart now, so I'm just going to leave it. NASDAQ has actually hit the low. So we've broken the lows here on a ES, and then the NASDAQ has just hit the lows. It hasn't broken the lows yet, so that's what I'm watching there. Just kind of waiting for this to do its move. Again, it might have watching it do a 50% pullback from the lows. Maybe it comes up to this low and bounces. I'm trying not to think the fact that I'm up 6K on the trade. I've locked in over 5K, so biggest trade ever so far, so that's really exciting. And this is where, it might have a pullback here and we might get out. And that's totally fine. I want to hold through it doing this, but as soon as it starts to show some strength, it can do this. That's how these moves work. And so, I'm letting it do its pullback here. It looks like it's going to knock me out, like 5,100 or something. Yeah, we're out. Sick trade. It's always like, oh, maybe if I give it a little bit of more room, I can stay in longer. But, look at how fast it just spiked up here. This candlestick, my stop was like $1,000 in reality, which is a lot. But it's, that's did exactly what I wanted to do. Sick trade, super happy with that. And that's why I don't use this downtrend line anymore, because if you think about it, holding to see if it tests this downtrend line, that would be giving back literally half of the profit on the trade. And so I don't want to do that, because generally when it gets so overextended, it's just going to rip back. And then when it usually happens, it's like, okay, the trend's probably over, or it's adjusting, and it could just, it's just, this is what I found over time at the simplest thing to work out. So make sure to check out that NinjaTrader competition in the link below. Otherwise, happy trading.